Hi students, I hope you can hear me and see me okay. I struggle with getting the lighting correct, but this seems a little better. Welcome to week 3. In this week we're going to continue our journey together in this survey course looking at many parts of the early pieces of higher education that the United States really imported, duplicated in some fashion from the European model, particularly the German university model. But in this week we're going to look at the famous Moral Act of 1862 that had founded the land-grant colleges, the early Dartmouth case, which made a very decisive decision that affects us today, and the Yale report, which some consider the early beginnings of what's known as the curriculum wars in higher education. So there are many readings. There's 2 videos. One's a short one on it's in near the end on 200 years of inventions from 1809 to 2009, and the other is sort of a survey documentary that's quite old and a little, difficult to follow, but it's very good on the land-grant colleges. So in terms of the readings, I really want you to pay particular attention to the piece by Martin Trow, T-R-O-W, in praise of weakness. This is a very interesting theory and perspective, primarily that the educational system started under conditions of weakness in the United States. And the chief weaknesses he identifies as the American Revolution and the Civil War. When the Constitution was written for this country in 1789, they made no comment about education or higher education. So they basically renounced authority over education. So in our democratic system, it meant the decision making on that was delegated to the individual states. And that's the big dramatic event. And then, of course, in 1860, with the Civil War, the other really big event was the devastation. At that time, there were 250 colleges at the start of the war, but then around when it ended in 1864, there were only 180 colleges that survived. Okay, so Trow's big piece is that there are 2 failures in American history that contributed to the system that we have now. The first was a failed effort to create a national university, which was defeated by Congress. That would have been interesting because it would have been a national policy governing higher education, which doesn't exist in this country as the way it does in others. And the other was the failed effort by the state of New Hampshire to make Dartmouth College a state institution, and this is the Dartmouth case. And the ruling on this was by none other than the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court at the time, Marshall, and he ruled that Dartmouth College was a private, not a civil corporation, and thus the state couldn't enter into or take it over by eminent domain. And to this day, this is the basic structure of the educational system that we have: the private versus public. And this is a very interesting case. I hope you'll read it with some care, because what happened from this is others felt there needed to be public education, and so no one other than Daniel Webster suggested that New Hampshire have a school, and I think they called it the New Hampshire College of Agricultural and Mechanics, which later became what we know now as the University of New Hampshire. So very, very interesting early history there. And then there's 2 articles by Eldred Johnson. The first is also on the Dartmouth case, but he's making a neglected meaning, and he traces the early origins of the motivator to have the Dartmouth College taken over by the state of New Hampshire, as to make it more accountable to the public need. So it's really interesting. He's dug into some of the early correspondence, and that's sort of an article that it's the story behind the story, which I found was interesting. And in his second piece, he talks a lot about the misconceptions about the land-grant colleges. And as an educational historian, he identifies this as the birthplace of the, taking over the trilogy from the European model, that universities should be involved in three things: teaching, research, and service. But he also says that these weren't just to develop things having to do with hands-on mechanical and agricultural things, but this was the birthplace of the liberal arts and the rise of the options for majors and so forth. And this is a little bit more dealt with in depth in the Yale report by Michael Pack, and this really talks about the traditionalism versus the progressivism, and the discipline disputes over how much Latin, how much Greek, how much early history should be involved versus the new applied sciences and so forth. So very, very good articles, and then there's others in there having to do with the rise of the scientific thinking, a piece on the trade unionism, which I think could be somewhat interesting to you. So in summary, those are good readings that will help you get a better sense of the early years in higher education in this country. And finally, the video by Hans Rosling, which is very short, 5 minutes, please look at it. It talks about how things have changed over the last 200 years. And I have you see all these and read all these and engage with conversations with each other on this, because this is what we are. This is who we are. This is our history. This is how we got to be where we are in higher education. So we're into the third week. Welcome to the third week. I think you're going to enjoy these, and I look forward to interacting with you in this course, in this week. Thanks very much. Bye.